Hey, this is Rob Schmitz, and I did my project on gamified learning management systems, and I chose Blooket and Canvas as the centerpiece for this. And so, just for the sake of time, I'm going to try to just give the details, and what I'll do is I'll segment this, and I'll give like a final product of what this is all about, and then I'll kind of just go through the motions on how I created my learning management system and how you can as well. So just so that there's actionable items at the end. And the essential question is, what is the best pedagogical process to foster retention and improve student performance? And this is just sort of the holy grail. We're all trying to improve the performance, and with a learning management system that's gamified, I feel like there's some benefits. So the number one benefit to a learning management system is that you have full control over the learning process. You're not having to adapt anything. You've got the materials in front of you. You make it instead of just taking it from other people. You can provide supports and scaffolds within the questions. With the learning management system, it should be easy to grade, and it's got some time opportunity cost built in because it'll grade for you automatically. For the students, it gives them immediate feedback, which is always very important, so they're not sort of wiring themselves with the misconception. Anything you make that's digital is evergreen. You can easily organize it, and you can access it later and share it with other teachers. When you use a learning management system, especially through Canvas, you can spiral review, and you can set up item banks. And then through the game that I like, the gamification app that I like to use is Blooket, and the elements inside of that make it fun. It increases engagement, and it can be accessed from anywhere with internet. A few of the drawbacks is, first of all, the curation of the content. It's going to cost you a lot of time up front. Every question that you make, implementing it, putting it into the apps, it is a huge time investment. Up front anyways. It requires internet and a computer and iPad to use, so if students don't have access to that, you got to give them an alternative. Some students actually really struggle with computer-based tests, and they want paper, and so again, you'll need to have access for them to do that. And if you use gamification all the time, it actually kind of gets boring. And then finally, if the students have access to the material for later, some of them kind of get disinterested in the lesson itself. All right, so here's a finished project that I've made. So I basically am in charge of all the algebra at Bellevue High School, and I make this study guide, and students have access to it on Canvas. So if you don't know what Canvas looks like, it's just this interface. It looks like it to the right. I'm not going to go through all the different bits and pieces. I'd be here for hours, but I've created a study guide, and in that study guide, there's 136 different concepts, and you can make a question bank, and I have 25,000 questions. Okay, aside from the Canvas quizzes that you would take, students have access to Blooket, and if you don't know what a Blooket is sort of like Kahoot, except students can self-pace. So they don't have to wait for the class. They don't have to wait for other students to answer. They kind of answer, and the faster they go, the more points they get. And then they change it up a little bit depending on the type of game. These can quickly be studied before more conventional tests, and the best part is it gives you instant feedback. So if it's incorrect, it'll pop up red. If it's correct, it'll pop up green. And I'm always telling my students, I'm like a bull. If I see red, I run over to them and I try to help them out. With the Canvas interface, the quizzes sort of look like this to the right. You can have a ton of control inside of Canvas that create different questions. In this particular case, I'm using a question with the key information highlighted. So this is something you wouldn't be able to get on like a paper. We can't print out colored sheets really at the school. Especially they're really expensive, so kids can't use it. It'd be a big waste of money. And then I've embedded some optional video for students who need the additional support. And then after a student can take a quiz, for instance, on Canvas, they can get instant feedback through homework or through quizzes. And over on the right side, you can see It says correct answer right underneath the selected answer, and then underneath I have access to what they got, if they reattempted it. And with question banks, with hundreds of questions, you can just let them retake it. And because the question banks are, since they have hundreds of questions, it's going to be fair. They're not going to see the same question and get it just because of that. All right, so I do a process to create this learning management system. The first thing is I do research to make sure that the questions I give are very applicable and they're useful. I make the questions, and I use PowerPoint to make the questions. I make a worksheet. I upload those images to Blooket. I facilitate it through Canvas. I include the supports, including videos, and then we're going to piece it all together. So very first thing is, unlike iExcel and Alex, which I've definitely used in the past, you have a chance to make your own questions. So here I have a link to the Florida Department of Education Best Mathematics Resources. And the next image is one of the standards. The benchmark is AR 2.2. You can see that I've made a question out of that. And inside that question, you can sort of see the supports that I've put in. The change in X over the change in Y is the slope. And so I don't want students kind of grinding their wheels on that and messing up. So I just kind of give it to them, because the main idea is I want them to use that information and put it into an equation. All right, so when I create the question, so you figure out the questions that you want to make, I use PowerPoint and I export all the questions into images. So over here on the left side, you can see 2 squared times 2 squared. That's where the questions are made. I import them all back into PowerPoint, into one of the templates. So I've made these templates. I've got 3, 1 idea, 2 ideas, and a collaborative template. And then on the right side, once you import all those images, you have yourself a nice little worksheet you can give the students. And this can actually be very, very fast once you get it set up, but it does take some time to set up. All right, so once you've got your worksheet, you teach your students the lesson, the concept. You can then upload those images into games. So again, my preferred game is Blooket, because students can work at their own pace. And then when you import the images, it's important. I like to do this because I want them to see the same images that we were using in the content, in the practice, because I don't want them to they're funny. They'll get thrown off for every little thing. So if the 6 looks funny, they're going to stop and they're going to wonder why, and they're going to make a mistake. All right, so after students get their practice in through Blooket, you can then export all those questions into question banks on Canvas. And so this is what a question bank looks like on Canvas. And the best thing about a question bank is you can insert those questions into any quiz or any homework. You can see on the left I've got tons and tons of question banks, and on the right I've got all the homework and exit tickets I've assigned. And this is really fast and efficient once you get it set up. All you got to do is go to Canvas, you open up, you create a quiz, and then you tell it how many questions from the question bank you want to pull. And so since I have, for instance, 1,000 questions for polynomials, if I give them 10 questions for polynomials, they're going to get 10 of those 1,000. So the chance of them seeing the same exact thing is very slim. Okay, and then so now you've got your question banks. You've got your, it's like a generic test. I don't like to do generic tests. I like to give my kids as much support as possible. So I'll then go to YouTube and I'll make some videos. So here on the right, you can kind of see my channel. And in Canvas, in order to insert your video in a way that it's not just in their face, you gotta have to kind of hide it behind a layer. And so you can kind of see what I did here. I've got on the bottom right where it says details, if you insert that code in the computation layer behind the actual text, and you insert the embedded video from YouTube, you got to go to YouTube and click share. You can actually have it to where the video pops up when they click on it. And it's very useful. My students say they love it and that it helps them out. But again, you don't want all of your kids doing it. You don't want them all exposed to it, because if they see a bunch of videos in their face, they're going to get bored with it and they're not going to like it. All right, so let's just piece it all together. I think the main issue with teaching is just It's a lot, right? According to the 2018 study by the University of Missouri, 93% of elementary school teachers report that they are highly stressed. So the public education in the 21st century is very chaotic. It's overstuffed. I have at least 31 kids in all of my classes, and I'm the main Algebra 1 teacher at the school, so they give me more. Nobody else gets them. And then they've got all kinds of gaps. And it can feel like an impossible task trying to manage it all. But luckily, with learning management systems, you can kind of do it. And so the big issue, other than giving the students the content and the way to teach it or to learn it, they're going to have a lot of apathy, and that's where gamification, I think, is the other shoe dropping. Gamification in education serves a very powerful tool to spark curiosity and engagement among learners of all ages, be it children or adults. All right. And finally, so other than some references, I just want to point out, like, over the course of this semester, the Myers principles are actually pretty awesome, because it's, other than, you get people engaged in whatever sort of multimedia you're doing, that's sort of the same thing that we do as a teaching. So for instance, the multimedia principle, students learn best with combination of multimedia. So they need to see pictures, they need to see video, they need to see paper in front of them. Then there's the coherence principle. So I believe in making sure that all of my videos are short. So 2 minutes, I try to keep it at the very max. Sometimes I have to go a little bit over, but any longer than that, and they tend to fall asleep. The signaling principle, you want to emphasize key points. So for instance, I'll highlight information in the question as like a scaffolding sort of, or a support. So if they have trouble understanding, hey, what information do I need? They can look at that to help them figure it out. The spatial continuity principle, you want to keep all the information close together so that they're not trying to, if you have +5 up in the top and then it's another operation in the bottom left, students are going to get confused. So this is, again, when you're giving notes to kids, you want to make sure it's as neat and organized as possible. Segmenting is another one that is involved in all of this. You want to break your questions down into as small as possible. So like, for instance, a 6-step problem, you don't want to give a student 6 steps. They're going to have trouble in step 2, and then they're going to get frustrated. So when I do this, I make sure all of my questions are a single step, even if it's a 6-step problem. Pre-training is another one I feel like we use a lot as teachers, but it's in this as well. You want to try to activate that prior knowledge and give them some sort of review. So even if they were supposed to learn it the previous year, we all know that they need to get it from you again. And finally, the modality principle, and this talking, I think this is why videos are the best form of remediation. So if a student misses class or they don't understand something, looking at an image or looking at the steps on an image isn't quite going to get it for them. But if they can see a video and they can click on a video, they're going to get it a lot better. And so that's why I think that videos are a must if you're doing some sort of learning management system. All right, and that's my project. Thank you for listening.